Welcome to another science exploration. Today, we are going to explore about non-flowering plants. Non-flowering plants are plants that do not produce flowers. As you know, for flowering plants, they have the step-by-step process of pollination, fertilization, seed development, and seed dispersal, through which they spread and grow. So if non-flowering plants don't produce flowers, then how do these plants spread and grow in new places? This is what we shall be checking out today. So please join me as we explore this topic of reproduction in non-flowering plants.
All right, let's dive right into this fascinating mystery. Imagine for just a second that you're a beautiful green plant living right in the middle of a dense, shadowy forest. Your biggest goal in life is to make sure your plant family grows and spreads all over the woods. But there is a huge catch to this plant. You don't make any colorful, sweet-smelling flowers to attract bees, and you definitely don't make any of those hard, delicious seeds that birds or squirrels can just carry away for you. Plus, you obviously don't have legs to walk, you don't have wings to fly, and your roots are stuck deep in the dirt. So how on earth do you manage to travel and sprout in entirely new places? It sounds almost impossible, right? Like some kind of forest magic? Well, it isn't magic at all. It's actually some of the most brilliant science in the natural world. Let's uncover the incredible secret weapon these plants use to solve this massive puzzle.
The answer to our great forest mystery basically comes down to one incredible little word: spores. You see, many non-flowering plants don't even bother with seeds. Instead, they reproduce using these tiny, secret weapons called reproductive cells, or spores. To give you a real idea of just how small a spore is, picture a single speck of dust floating through the air in a bright beam of sunlight. Got it? Well, a single spore is often even smaller than that dust speck. And unlike the seeds you might plant in your garden, which are heavy and thick, a spore does not have a tiny baby plant inside of it. Oh, and perhaps even more importantly, a spore doesn't pack a lunchbox. What I mean is, it doesn't have any stored food packed away to give it a head start. Because they're so incredibly microscopic and don't carry the extra weight of stored food, they are virtually weightless. This makes them perfectly designed to be swept up and carried away to brand new homes. But a big question remains: where does a plant possibly hide something so tiny and invisible?
Well, let's put on our botanical detective hats and investigate the leafy fern. Next time you're walking through the woods and you find a fern, I want you to gently turn over one of its wide, green branches, which scientists actually call fronds. If you look super closely at the underside, you might spot what looks like rows of little dark brown or orange patches. Those little brown dots are called sori, and they are essentially tiny treasure chests. Ferns produce their microscopic spores inside special protective cases called sporangia, and they group thousands of those sporangia together to build those sori patches we just talked about. When the time is absolutely perfect and the spores are totally mature and ready for an adventure, those sporangia act like tiny little catapults. They suddenly burst open, pop, and they forcefully fling thousands of invisible spores right out into the open air, launching them on their journey.
Now let's see how this incredible strategy works in a completely different type of non-flowering plant: the mosses. You've probably seen that soft green carpet-like moss going over damp rocks or climbing up the bark of old trees. Well, mosses tackle the whole spore problem just a little bit differently than ferns do. Rather than hiding them under wide leaves, mosses keep their delicate spores completely safe inside a tiny container called a capsule. Think of it almost like a microscopic salt shaker. And notice where this capsule is located. It's usually held proudly up high on a very thin, delicate stalk, raising it way above the main leafy part of the moss plant. It's almost like a flag waving on a tall flagpole. But why go through all the trouble of holding it up so high? Because when that tiny shaker finally pops open, being up high guarantees that the passing wind can easily catch those mature spores and instantly whisk them away into the sky. Let's check out another brilliant design, this time found in horsetails and club mosses. First off, have you ever wondered why they're called horsetails? It's a pretty funny name for a plant. It's really just because their tall, bushy green stems look exactly like the tail of a horse, swishing around in a meadow. But the real magic happens right at the very tips of these bushy stems. If you look closely at the highest point, you'll find special structures that look an awful lot like tiny little pine cones. These awesome cone-like structures are basically nature's little launch pads. Inside these cones, the sporangia are hard at work, manufacturing massive amounts of microscopic spores. Once the spores are completely mature and the weather conditions are just right, these cones slowly open their tiny scales and release literal clouds of spores out into the wild to start their big adventure.
Another absolutely fantastic example is the liverwort. Liverworts are these small, fascinating little non-flowering plants that absolutely love to grow flat against damp soil or wet rocks. Just like the ferns, mosses, and horsetails we've been investigating, liverworts completely skip the whole seed-making process. They rely entirely on the power of spores to reproduce and build their families. But instead of catapults or salt shakers, liverworts release their tiny spores from unique little pockets that look exactly like miniature umbrellas standing straight up in the mud. It is genuinely amazing to realize just how many different shapes and ingenious designs, from explosive pops to tall shakers to tiny green umbrellas, that non-flowering plants have invented over millions of years just to hold onto and protect their precious spores.
So this brings us to a really crucial point in our botanical mystery. Once these millions of tiny spores are finally launched from their fronds, tall stalks, cones, or little umbrellas, how do they actually travel anywhere? Well, the most common method in all of nature is simply catching a free ride on the breeze. Because spores are literally lighter than a feather, even the gentlest whisper of a breeze is all they really need. The wind acts like a gigantic, natural taxi service. It swirls them up into the clouds and carries them across entire fields, over rushing rivers, and incredibly far away from their parent plant. And moving far away is absolutely vital, because it guarantees the new little plants can find their very own wide-open space to stretch out and grow, instead of staying crowded around their parents, desperately fighting for the exact same drops of water and rays of sunlight.
But hey, the wind isn't the only incredible taxi service out there in nature. Sometimes water eagerly comes to the rescue. This is especially true for plants that love to live in deep, damp, shady places, or right on the slippery banks of a woodland stream. Imagine a heavy, giant raindrop falling from the high branches of a tree and hitting a patch of moss with a massive splash. To a microscopic spore, that tiny splash is basically like a giant, powerful tsunami. It forcefully launches the spore right into a rushing stream or a swirling puddle, where the spore then acts just like a tiny, invisible boat. Mosses and liverworts actually use this amazing splash and flow method all the time to quickly wash their spores all around their damp forest homes, flawlessly navigating the wet terrain without needing a gust of wind at all.
So, let's say our brave, tiny spore has flown high on the wind or surfed wildly on a giant raindrop, and it finally lands on the ground. What exactly happens next? Well, a spore might be tough, but it is incredibly picky about where it lives. It won't just grow anywhere. The conditions have to be exactly right. Honestly, just like the story of Goldilocks finding the perfect bed. To successfully settle down and develop into a strong, healthy new plant, the spore absolutely demands 3 specific things from its new environment. First, it needs abundant moisture. The ground has to be damp enough for it to take a big, long drink. Second, it needs a cozy, warm blanket of radiant sunlight to wake it up. And third, it needs its own personal space, so it doesn't have to share its precious soil and food with other large plants. If it finds a spot with just the right moisture, perfect warmth, and enough space, that tiny, invisible spore will miraculously begin to grow into a brand new plant.
And as that young, brand new plant grows up big and strong, it will eventually start producing its own sporangia and its very own microscopic spores, beautifully continuing this amazing, endless life cycle all over again. We've seen how reproduction in so many non-flowering plants happens entirely through the magic of these incredible little spores. Whether they're hiding away in the sori of a fern, standing tall in the capsules of a moss plant, or waiting patiently in the cone-like structures of horsetails, these tiny, weightless cells masterfully use the wind and the water to spread and grow in entirely new places all over the world. It is just an absolutely brilliant, flawless system. So the next time you're walking through a damp forest or a shady park, take a closer look at the undersides of leaves and the tops of mosses. Who knows what invisible, magical worlds of spores you might be standing right next to? If you find the video informative, then please like and subscribe. Thanks!